Well, it is 7 PM and time to call this regular meeting of the Bristol Town Council to order. Today is Thursday, August 1st, and this is the first regular meeting for the month of August. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Dean, would you like to lead us? Sure.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we will start with roll call. To my left, Dean Renfro. Here. Kathy Burke.
Yes, here.
Greg Zaholski.
Here.
We'll head to the back, Fire Chief Nick Gantz.
Here, hello, how are you?
Great. How's it going? Town Manager Mike Yoder. Clerk Treasurer Kathy Antonelli. Legal Counsel Alex Bowman.
Present.
And Town Marshal Steve Frame.
Here.
Great. Has everybody had a chance to review the agenda?
Yes.
Are there any additions, deletions, corrections? If none noted, the agenda will stand as published. Next on the agenda is approval of invoices. Has everyone had a chance to review this month's invoices?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Any additions? Nothing. Okay.
Make a motion, we approve the invoices.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Motion by Kathy, second by Dean. Any further discussion? If not, we'll take a vote. Dean Renfro.
Yes.
Kathy Burke.
Yes.
Greg Dolsky.
Yes.
And Doug D. Smith is a yes. Motion carries. Next on the agenda is approval of minutes. It appears, Kathy, there are no minutes
Correct.
to be approved. Okay.
Correct.
With that, we're on to reports. Mr. Yoder.
Okay, first up, we have a request from the County Plan Commission for a letter of support for whatever we want to do as far as the rezoning that they'll be looking at next Thursday at Plan Commission. So this is the Wilhelm Farm. This is the location of the proposed new data center. The petitioner is requested to go from A1 to M1. This is a straight rezoning. This was attempted, I think, back in January. It was attempted before, and the Planning Commission turned down a straight rezoning. And at that time, there was a commitment made to the neighbors by the developer and others that the next go around would be a detailed plan unit development. So there would be a specific use. So that's not happening. And I think the neighbors are rightfully somewhat, well, they're concerned. Now, this time around, the planning staff is giving a positive recommendation to this because of the general use of the area as Lord M1, and you can read in their packet their logic for recommending a straight rezoning. This is the property, and this is the property that's seeking straight rezoning. So before you, I have a letter, two letters. There's only one difference between the two letters that you can choose to support one of the letters or neither of the letters, and we'll just leave it go. And you folks will be seeing this then with either a positive recommendation from the Planning Commission or a negative recommendation from the Planning Commission the first Thursday in September. So as you look through the letter, there were several concerns and that was brought up recently at a neighborhood meeting. And I've attempted to address many of those with this letter to the Plan Commission. First of all, there was some concern, and I think we've shared that concern there about noise generated from this operation. Most likely, this will have chillers. So the company is willing to work with us with that. We're going to, we have a commitment from them to take a look at that to be able to abate the noise. I'm suggesting we take another look at our noise ordinance to make sure that we have the ability to enforce that noise level that we agreed to. There's concern about water usage from the site. We've already talked with the company about that and listed to them some significant parameters that we have to be within. First of all, The aquifer is huge here. We know that. So we pull millions of gallons a day regularly from this aquifer. So they will not impact wells in the area or the aquifer significantly, even though it sounds like a lot of gallons. However, if they do not do a recirculating system with a chiller, then they'll be pumping and discharging. And I don't see any way for that to happen right now. I'm not sure if they've thought about it, but it is an option. We can't handle that volume of water through our wastewater treatment plant. They would have to get permission to discharge that amount of water to Mench's ditch. And I don't think that ditch can handle that either. So my guess is that technology is evolving, and by the time we get to that design phase, we'll be working closely with them to figure out a way to how to cool this and do it in a way that is not disruptive to the neighborhood noise. Another significant issue for the town, at least for me, is drainage. We'll be covering a lot of ground, rooftop. So we've already contracted with JCAR to do the watershed study. I hope to have that completed here in a couple months, and then I hope we can do some infrastructure changes and do that this fall, so we're ready to go next spring with construction. The final thing, and I think this may be the most important concern of the neighborhood, is the straight rezone. So I have, both letters are the same, except the one includes language saying that we will not, as a council, approve this straight rezoning unless there's a commitment to a single use as a data center. So what that means is that if this data center falls apart, they can't get power or something else goes wrong, it will have to be rezoned before it's used for anything other than a data center. I think that meets your intent. I think that would be helpful for the neighborhood to signify that that's our position at this point. However, if you want to start the rezoning, there's a letter that does that as well. So,
I have a question.
yes.
On here, it's talking about the change would be from A1 to M1, but the west part of it is A1 and M2 at this point.
Yeah, here in the corner.
That's in that little yellow.
Yeah, this little
white
corner right
area.
here. That must be a mixed zone right there. So,
Yeah, and I don't remember, the county must have done that.
well, I don't remember being rezoned either. So that was kind of new to me as well. I think it's, that's.
Yeah, it's that little piece right there. So it's not strictly from an A1 to an M1, it's an A1.
Well, most of it is.
Yeah,
I mean, all of that's A1.
yeah. Plus there's an M2 in there too.
So the A1, with the single use restriction commitment is pretty close to a DPUD. The standards for the M1 district are pretty decent, and we can even add some additional commitments to that when we hear it in September as well. If we want to add some additional bufferings or make them commit to, there was some concern about buffering along this southern border. We can add that commitment in September as well. Not just buffer along the residential areas, but buffer here on the south portion.
To the west where that subdivision is.
It's really hard to see my cursor, but I'm right here below the A1.
Right.
So they're talking about buffers through this area. Where were you at, Dean, when you said that?
That's what he was talking about.
That's what you're talking about, yeah. So they committed to that already. But there was another neighbor that asked them on that little jog along.
The one along to the right. The
Yeah,
little-
Right through here.
At this point, though, are their commitments, if they're already backing on zoning, like, we need to get on making sure that they have to do it.
Yep.
Because their commitments are turning out to be a lot of anything.
Well, the commitments, so that they will not get an occupancy permit unless they've met the commitments. If we put it in the zone, in the ordinance.
Okay.
So the commitments hold significant accountability for that.
Would it be possible to request, so they have several data centers already.
Yeah,
Is there any way they can send us information like decibel readings, consumption from existing plants?
yeah,
to
that
kind of-
was asked for at the public meeting, the neighborhood meeting, and they committed to do.
Cause I mean, depending on what they do, I mean, some of those data centers, crypto mining, I mean, that's. You hear it all over town.
Yes.
So just the sooner the better if we could get that. And find out what they're currently doing, just to make sure.
I agree, because there's a lot of data centers in Northern Virginia, and I've seen news reports where neighbors are complaining.
About sound?
Yeah.
Well, just everything.
I think they're older systems. I think, like you said, the technology is getting better, but we need to know which. Are they doing the most advanced data center? Or is it old technology they're gonna upgrade? Like, what's their intent?
I mean, and if their sound thing is like, we had a problem here in town with. Bristol Pipe, it used to be Bristol Pipe. And their sound emitters were straight pipes up into the air. It didn't do a thing. They weren't either tall enough or whatever, but everybody knew when those things were running. And I even did on the other one, so.
So they're constructing up here where this white square is up in this corner.
We can't see.
Yeah,
See it. It's.
yeah, right under the word Bristol, right up in here.
Oh, that's the A1 M2.
Right, so that quadrant is where they'll be constructing. So we have, in favor of the residents, we have distance in our favor. There are baffles, sound baffles they can put on the chillers that'll help. And the type of buffer we put along that edge, I think will make a significant difference too. Trees, maybe a mound, something
It's
that,
gonna be quite a ways from the subdivision then.
Yes, right.
For now, right? Is the rest of it going to be just solar panels?
no, it sounds like, well, that's a good question to ask them. It will not be solar panels, I don't think. Cause
Yeah, what?
we're only
The
allowing,
rest of the property, that's interesting.
well, we're only allowing a data center and supporting buildings, so that's it. They can't put solar panels.
But we don't know, if they're constructing up there, we don't know what's gonna be built in the bottom.
Can't be anything but a data center. And they're restricted by the power that's there on how much they can build. So there's constrictions. So what are they gonna do with the rest of the land? Good question to ask them.
I would like to know,
Yeah.
because if they have,
Corn,
Corn,
agriculture.
if they have plans, well, they can't if it's an M1,
If they're,
they plant corn there.
You can plant corn in that one.
You-
not an M1, if it's specified only for that particular usage.
Oh my God, we're not gonna eliminate corn.
I'm sorry, you were talking
Okay.
about restricting
Alright.
usage.
Data centers of corn and soybeans. Are we okay with corn and soybeans? Yeah, I thought maybe.
I mean, with all the requirements, I think data center's great as long as they can meet the requirements of noise and water. I mean,
Yes.
it's low traffic. It's good for the town. I mean, overall, it should be a good, I mean,
All the traffic, they're committing to all the traffic going north to a new road. They will have a secondary, an emergency entrance on County Road 22. That'll be gated.
Okay, but before I agree to anything, I wanna know what that other rest of that property they plan to do with. I mean, if that's all it is, then they could have only purchased
Oh,
that.
no,
you know?
well, no. Actually, that little white space is where the new transmission lines will be going. That's not a very large portion. So can we find, my cursor's right on that white line, okay?
Right here.
Yes, so
Yeah.
the development is going to be down in this area here,
Down there?
right in here.
Oh, originally you said up there,
Well,
so.
I meant this quadrant.
Well, you need a highlighted cursor.
I do.
If I was sucker, like a ghost flying.
If I was a better technology person, I'd probably
All
have
you have
that
to do
done.
is go into
You
your
know.
system settings and
Look
change
at
your
this.
cursor.
Right here.
Yeah. That's far away from any residential part.
Yeah, originally,
Yes.
I thought you said they were only building in that yellow, white square.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I've had communication issues all of my life. Ask my wife. Anyways.
personally, I'm in favor of the requirement of the data center only. Like, that's the only acceptable use, but then I'd like to see the readings from their existing plans before it comes to us in September.
No, I'll convey that to them as
Or
well.
what kind of maintenance they want, that kind
Oh, well, I sort of know what they're going to ask, although
For
they've
years,
been
a
reluctant.
long time.
Yeah, the state has actually set that up, so it's. We started talking about it, and I said, well, here's the thing, you're gonna ask for a 40-year abatement on all the personal property. So I'll request the same thing that was done in Laporte, and the town would like a check for $1.5 million in exchange.
Instead of taxes, we just get a check.
Yeah, straight payment. And then we have the real estate taxes, and they wanted to know about abatement on that. And I said, well, you guys have to build water, sewer, and a road. Because the town's not paying for that. So that's how we structure that tax abatement or tip incentive depends on how you want to pay for it. So this is a sequential thing, the land use is first. And then that gets them in the queue for power. Once they have the power commitment from NIPSCO, then we'll start with designing the building and designing the site and making sure that all the commitments are in place on the site design before they get building permits.
Well, if they
So
have,
that's the sequence.
if they have to get NIPSCO's approval, that'll be another 2 years, right? Enough power?
Actually, until they get the power,
Yeah.
but they expect a letter of commitment from NIPSCO yet this year or next spring,
I see.
if they get the zone. Because they have the land, they'll have the zoning, they have the financial back or wherewithal to build the facility. So it's just a matter of a letter of commitment from NIPSCO, that's my understanding.
Yeah, I'm with Greg. I like the idea of the decibel reading before we do that, because we know we have a decibel that we use in
Okay,
town. And how far out that reaches.
right.
I mean, if they've got an 80 decibels
Hmm.
at the place, how far out does it reach? And the problem is this is gonna reach out further because there's no obstructions.
Well, they had talked about the town ordinance limiting it to 80 decibels, but
I think it's 85.
yeah, but it's a little unclear as to where.
Yeah,
And I think maybe it was you that mentioned that 80 decibels 24/7 is too darn loud.
oh, yeah,
Holy smoke.
That's OSHA standard, but that's a 24 or 8 hour time weighted
I
average.
mean, it's about that for a train coming through town. And being 2.5 blocks away, it's for a short period of time, you learn
I
to
wonder
ignore
what
it.
the fire department's siren decibel level is.
It's exempt.
It's exempt. Okay. Anyways, I would be driving
Oh,
by.
it's out at 11:59 instead of noon every day, but that's okay.
It's historical. You can't-
It's a
No, it's not.
All right, well, if, I don't know if you need to take an official vote, if you just indicate which one you want Doug to sign, then, I'll get that too.
Well, we've got the single use. I think everybody agrees on that.
Yep,
Okay, that's the one we'll have you sign.
with, now, do we have to declare that it's with limitations at that point, or that would be September?
I'm hoping that the planning commission next Thursday says, okay, that we agree with the town, single use rezoning. And that's what they, that's what they recommend to us.
But what about the restrictions then?
We'll see what they do, but we can add that ourselves.
We
in
can,
September.
after that,
Yeah, you guys have the final say.
oh, that's true. That's because it's town property, right? It's in town.
It is. in
We
town
annex
already.
it, right, we've got final say on the zoning. Yeah.
Okay, any other questions
Yep.
on that project? All right, Doug will have you sign the form and I'll get it to the planning commission.
Ooh, you're so sufficient.
The next item I have is more of an information item. To let you know that the county council is happy to announce a rate increase for our major news loan from 3.5 to 5.2%.
Quick jab.
No kidding. There was a certain county councilman that had took great pleasure in coming to that. Well, Darrell Reed's, he just likes to needle me around this. So our current balance is right at $660,000. Kathy and I are looking at maybe some options. We'll see how our south tip balance ends up close to end of the year, we might just make a $400,000 payment in January on that. Kind of get that knocked down, and if revenues are good next year, we'll just pay that. Okay.
Sounds good. Anything else?
Seems like there was one other thing, but now I can't remember what it was, so we'll move on.
I do want to ask you a question. I know we were working on an ordinance on like electric bikes and things like that on sidewalks and all of that stuff.
I was not working on one like that. I
It was a
working on-
long time ago, but it had to do with, different little vehicles, motorized vehicles. Don't you remember that one?
Well,
Alex?
UTVs.
Little motorized vehicles?
Little, well, we had golf carts, and then we added UTVs, which I don't remember what the U stands for,
Utility.
Utility.
utility. And now we've had a request for off-road vehicles, which, well, Alex and I started working on that, and then I saw the UTV, and that seems pretty close to an off-road vehicle, so we're still working on that.
I know they were talking about, it had been brought up about electric bicycles
I don't
and things
recall.
like that on the sidewalks.
We were talking when we were redoing the ordinances, that was. when
Right,
Glenn was here.
right. That was quite a while back, and I was just wondering, is it just gone flat? Because I'm telling you, living on 120, there's electric bicycles going up and down the sidewalks all day long.
I mean, a bike should be on the street anyways, it should be on the sidewalk regardless of electric or pedal, right?
I thought bikes are always supposed to be on the road.
Well, that's what I mean, like,
Yeah.
it's still a bicycle, whether it's an electric bike or not, it shouldn't be on the sidewalk.
There are some statutory provisions that apply to, and the town's code of ordinances, set forth, I think, 6 or 7 different types of vehicles and how they're governed, kind of what they are and how they're enforced. But by and large, I think that's true. If it's got wheels and it's capable of being operated, it's probably supposed to be, on the roadway, not a sidewalk. To that point, on electric bicycles, UTVs, OTVs, ATVs, probably the recommendation that I would have is that entire chapter of the code, I think, can probably be streamlined pretty quickly and succinctly to address use of all of those within the town.
We're we trying to hook up with the county, the one the county did.
Right, so we took Millbrae's, I think, and modified it for us, and as I was reviewing it, I looked at the UTV ordinance, and it just pretty much the same thing.
Which, it's interesting, not knowing the history of how UTV came to be, there is no statutory reference to UTV.
Really?
Yeah. It's
Is that what
not
they
in-
call it, side by side?
Yes, that's how so it's defined very limited, and that under the statutory section falls into what could otherwise be considered an OTV. But the town code specifically says.
If it's got wheels and a motor, can we just say it's allowed on the street?
Pretty close, yeah,
Well, they're coming
Well,
out,
we're
they're coming out
certainly
with
sure.
motorized skateboards, believe it or not.
yes,
Yeah, there's one goes by the house all the time.
Motorized skateboards, yeah.
Yeah.
suffice to say,
Waiting for him to hit a rock.
there is a basis in the code to regulate it.
No, I was just wondering, we had talked about it before, and I noticed them going down the street, I see a lot of people riding bicycles down the sidewalk, apparently with their kids or, whatever. But the motorized just, I'm blinking because I just didn't see it.
You've been seeing the mini bikes going by?
I don't stand out and watch.
No, I mean,
I don't have
barely
that
see them. They've been buzzing by. They gotta go by your house, because they go by mine heading over. to
I'm
the
sure
east.
that's probably what they are, but I don't think they're mini bikes. I think they're motorized bicycles.
No, the ones I see
that
are
I've
mini
seen.
bikes. Actual little
I was
big
just
fat
wondering if
motors.
we ever did anything with that, because I know we were talking about it at
We
one
did
time.
not,
Okay, that's all I wanted. Thank you.
until I remember what the other topics was, I am done.
All right. Becky, what do you have for us?
I have before you ordinance number 8-1-2024-16. This is regarding an additional appropriation for $260,000 for MVH unrestricted and TIF South. These have to do with the water main replacement for the CCMG 2024-1 street project. This has been properly advertised and is up for final adoption this evening.
That's the one in Elker Street.
Yes, and it turns out that project may not be done this year, but we haven't funded it. It
You had said something about you was gonna check, see if they stick it in with the bond.
No.
cannot do that.
Can I do it?
Indiana Street, Joseph.
I don't know why it's, you guys said Elkhart. It's
This
Indiana.
is Elkhart and St.
Oh, Elkhart Street.
2024.
Indiana's already
That's
done.
the one we just got. That
This
was,
is the new one, we just.
They didn't appropriate for that.
that's what this one's for. I think we, oh my gosh, you're saying I'm wrong. Without even saying it.
Cause that was the contract we just awarded to Niblock not too long ago.
Right, 2024. It could be that this is supposed to be for 2023-2, which would be Indiana Street, which we're now paying for out of water. The water. main for the second.
So is it or isn't it? You say could be. Is it or? isn't
Oh,
it?
just appropriate. We won't spend it.
No, but it was advertised.
As-
Yeah,
I'm sort of, I'm remembering this was for the 2024 one project because I thought we were gonna get it done, snuck in this year yet, but, it's not going to happen.
So Indiana was 100,000, but this is 260,000 for the shorter strip.
I guess.
that make any sense.
No, cause it's only 2 blocks.
So if it is not for this project, do we need to scrap it and re-advertise?
No, I don't think so. I think the proof of publication under the statute for additional appropriations, gives notice that the additional appropriation is being considered. So before the council will take any action, on second reading, the council be obliged to hold a public hearing to invite public comment. I don't see that. I don't see this notice as being defective based
Okay.
upon that. Of course, the council will need to take, action to amend it so the ordinance reflects the accurate accounting, et cetera. But the amount is not changing. The fact that there's an additional appropriation is not changing. So no, I think the proof that's been provided is sufficient.
Okay.
So in other words, we don't have to determine that it's a specific project.
It's.
All we're doing is
No more-
appropriated fund.
More so that at least procedurally, you don't have to reissue the publication and set this for an additional hearing down the road. I think the council could take action on it this evening, having met those statutory requirements, but the action the council would need to do is to vote to amend it to reflect whatever the fund line would be.
And just to be clear for everybody, these funds can only be used for paving or infrastructure projects. So it's not like we're creating a project just to spend money.
You either restricted, MVH restricted.
This is unrestricted.
Unrestricted.
This is unrestricted.
But, well, so that technically can be used for buying salt and stuff. We're not, We're not
Restricted
flush.
is paving, right?
yeah, we're not flush with cash for our paving projects that we have on
On the books right now.
books right now, so we're being really.
But now the 260, that's just for the water.
That's what this reads, and if that's true, then that will not be spent this year. We'll just save that in the funds and carry it over.
It just seems extremely high compared to Indiana being as long as it is. It's like 100,000. And then this being 260, it's like,
Indiana is 245,000.
oh, I thought it was 100,000.
No, 243,000. Just got the-
That makes a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was 100,000 originally we talked about.
So this may have more connections, maybe, I'm not sure.
And this is changing from 4 to an 8, right?
Right.
So we need a motion
We
to approve
need a
a
public
second
meeting.
reading.
So let's start, let's start first with what amendment, if anything, needs to be made. Is my understanding the conversation, the reasoning needs to be adjusted, is that?
Probably just for expenditures for the 2024-1 community crisis project.
And they're both for CCMG 2024-1?
Yes. That allows us to apply to either height of the asphalt or the water main, if we need it for the water main.
Instead of tearing it up a year from now, when it's a brand new road.
So what is the ordinance 8.1.2024-16? That says a related ordinance. So what is that?
Where does it say related?
Right at the top.
That's this ordinance.
It says related to ordinance number.
Because this is the notice. This notice is related to the ordinance.
But this is the ordinance.
I don't know what you're looking at, Abby.
It's in the packet.
Well, go down. So this is the notice.
You're
actual
looking at the
ordinance
notice
is the
that
next
got
page.
published in the paper. The ordinance is 8/1/24/16.
Yeah, the next page is the actual ordinance. That's the
There is no next page.
refresh.
Let me go back.
I think
I
you're
want
on
to make
the
sure I'm
actual
looking at the right
document,
thing
not the
before I decide to
packet.
vote on anything.
So 220 is coming out of South Tiff. And the other 40 is
No,
coming out.
that's the only one we
unrestricted.
have.
Correct.
Go to the packet.
Oh, here, this is the one. No, it's not.
We'd like to. pull
I don't
out
mean to
the
hold everybody up.
out of the water.
They
I
don't
don't
have-
mean to hold everybody.
Technically, they should be paying for it,
Yes.
but they don't have any money built up.
Originally.
Mhm.
Joe returned.
Okay.
They had.
This is why it's-
Indiana have one.
See what I was looking
She's
at?
looking at
Water
the
does.
actual notice on the
So
packet.
we
The
can
notice.
Save that money.
And it says in accordance with ordinance.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, thank you. I understand now.
So,
Sorry, I didn't mean to get everybody.
I just don't know how much more they've got left to use for these projects.
Okay, so we need to amend, right?
You know, but let me maybe seek some clarity here as to what does the amendment need to be?
The description being changed from specifically water main replacement to just striking that.
Oh, so, so the reason would be just for funding CCMG 2024-1.
Yes.
Gotcha.
That way it covers all the bases.
Got it.
Okay,
Okay.
so,
Because it wasn't figured in the original bid,
Right.
the
okay,
community crossing grant. at all.
we need a public,
Makes sense.
we need a public. hearing.
Yeah, so I think the appropriate thing to do would be to open the public hearing, hear any public comment. Once public comment is closed, then the council can take action to amend and then adopt.
Okay. So we will open a public hearing. At this point, are there any comments? Hearing no comments, we'll close the public meeting.
I make a motion to amend ordinance 8-01-2024-16 to say replacement being added to the CCMG 2024-1 street project.
No. We're removing that.
No, you're removing the water main.
Okay,
Am I right?
probably.
Okay,
I was only,
Alex didn't say
There's
anything.
a
You know,
mistake.
you said something that was wrong.
I'll second the motion. Is there any discussion? If no discussion, we'll take a vote. Dean Renfro,
Yes,
Betty Burke,
Yes,
Rick DeHolsky.
Yes.
And Doug D. Smith is a yes. Motion carries.
The next business then would be to a motion to adopt ordinance 8/1/2024-16 as amended.
All right. Is there a motion to approve ordinance number 8.1.2024-16?
I'll make a motion, we adopt that
as amended.
As amended.
as amended.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Dean, second by Kathy. Any further discussion? If not, we'll take a vote. Dean Renfro.
Yes,
Kathy Burke.
Yes,
Greg DeHolsky.
Yes.
And Doug D. Smith is a yes. Motion carries.
Thank you. That was a lot of work for
I
my.
don't like to vote on something I don't know what I'm voting.
All right.
that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, Alex.
your turn in the barrel.
Thank you, sir. Council, there are two items of business presented this evening. The first is ordinance number 8/15/2024-21, which on first reading is an ordinance of the Town Council of the Town of Bristol, Indiana, amending sections of Title V of the Code of Ordinances for the Town of Bristol, Indiana. Might be able to give a better explanation as to what has necessitated some of these changes, but essentially the language here is some cleaning up of the town's stormwater ordinance and adding some language that that IDEM has insisted be included as part of the code.
It's not stormwater, it's more related to wastewater.
Sorry,
Uh,
wastewater,
but
storm
It's,
wastewater.
it's in that same, you're in the right church. Uh,
Different view.
yeah.
Just IWP, just call it IWP.
Right, so that's exactly what it is, we're just cleaning up some definitions, IDEM strongly requested Tim McCandless have us do this. So no changes on charges or any other standards, just cleaning up some language.
Make a motion, is this
Do
this
we
is
need a
first
public
reading?
hearing?
First reading.
Not on this one,
No.
no, and not right now. What this is, the action to take on this would be to advance to second reading.
Okay, is there a motion to advance to second reading ordinance amending Title V?
And that's ordinance 8/15/2024-21.
I make a motion, we amend ordinance number 8/15/2024-21.
I'll second that motion. Any discussion? If not,
We need advance, not amend, right?
Yeah, maybe just a point of order, I think.
Oh, did I say amend?
You did, yeah.
I'm sorry, I
So-
meant advance.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been dealing with two little kids today. I'm mentally young. Advance. I amend my motion to say advance to first reading. Second reading. Jeez. Alex, you're gonna make me die now.
I'll second that motion. Motion by Kathy, second by Doug. Any further discussion?
Oh, no.
If not, we'll take a vote. Dean Renfro.
Yes.
Kathy Burke,
Yes.
Greg Holstein,
Yes.
Doug D. Smith is a yes. Motion carries.
Thank you, council. We'll revisit that second reading at the next regular town council meeting. The second item of business to present to you this evening is I believe is ordinance 8/15/2024-22, which is an ordinance of the town council of the town of Bristol, Indiana, amending chapter 94 of the Code of Ordinances for the town of Bristol, Indiana regarding egg-laying chickens. This is an ordinance to revisit the chicken ordinance. As the council may recall, the council in ordinance 4-6-2023-5 established a process and procedure for permitting and regulating the ownership of egg-laying chickens within the town of perhaps particular significance, and what this ordinance seeks to address is the 6 chicken limit that was placed for any permit holder within the town of Bristol. Council may recall that there was a remonstrator at one point who addressed the council and acknowledged that perhaps she had more than 6 chickens on her property, and so the council initially contemplated a variance from the ordinance in order to provide for the permission to have more than 6 chickens, but the guidance that I've provided is that given that it's a hard and fast limit in the code, the way that it sits, and so a variance wouldn't be the appropriate procedure. And so what this ordinance here does is creates a process whereby folks can still apply for chicken permits. It changes a little bit of the information that needs to be included within a chicken permit request, and then sets a threshold so that a request for 6 or less chickens can be issued as a matter of right by the clerk treasurer. And then a request for 7 to 16 chickens, which would be the ceiling, would be forwarded to the town council for discussion, approval, disapproval, modification. So it provides residents of the town an opportunity to have more than 6. That then gives the council some final approval over that. That's the concept that is being introduced here to address the concerns of the constituents that 6 isn't enough.
So if someone wants more than 6, they would have to individually come to the council and request.
The process that's contemplated here would be when an individual submits an application to the clerk treasurer with an application fee that varies depending on whether it's a 6 chicken request or a 7 to 16 chicken request. That application specifies how many chickens they want to have. If it's over that 7 threshold, that's then forwarded to the town council so the town council can have a public hearing on whether the permit should be issued, whether it should be denied, whether it should be modified. The idea here is to give the town council a little more discretion, a little more control over who has so many chickens. And the reason, I think that threshold, maybe 6 is too little, maybe 8 is too many. But the idea between that threshold is that the council doesn't necessarily need to be in the business of approving every chicken permit that comes through. With the idea being that there's only going to be a handful perhaps of requests for a greater number of chickens.
I have a question.
Sure.
If you're changing that to 7 to 16, why would council approve 8 chickens here and deny the 7 chicken request over here? Doesn't that cause conflict?
Depends on what.
No, I mean, so the ordinance is, what the ordinance grants the council is really the discretion to determine where that number of chickens is appropriate. Of course, there are still limitations, there's still requirements as far as what the pen looks like. It's gotta be, single family residence, it's not multifamily, it's, there are other qualifications there. But the discretion lies with the council as far as what is an appropriate issuance.
So normal practice currently, if it comes to our office and it goes to code enforcement,
Mhm.
doesn't involve council. Are we alleviating the code enforcement step to review the layout, the setup, the property, to make sure those ducks are in a row
As it were.
No pun intended.
before it comes to council?
No, I don't think so. So the ordinance still has that as a requirement. There are still, whoever is holding, harboring chickens, I think is the way that the ordinance refers to it. That still needs to meet those code requirements. And I think what would be contemplated as part of that public hearing, that the council would have, the option to request, I imagine that as due process, and due diligence, they would be for code enforcement to, opine on whether this is whether it's appropriate to have this greater number of chickens in this
Mhm.
particular permitted space.
Okay.
That's again, I think part of the expectation here is we're playing in a relatively finite universe. I don't think the expectation is that every house in the town of Bristol asks for 6 or more chickens.
You don't live in Bristol.
So that's at least the concept. That's the idea. It is, I mean, this is an area that is completely within the council's discretion. I think as far as how to craft a procedure for addressing these types of requests. This is one way to do it. Not necessarily a wrong way, but it can certainly be subject to what the council thinks is reasonable.
I have a question.
Mhm.
The ordinance we have already limits to 6, right?
Correct.
So what is the problem? If somebody wants to ask for more, the ordinance only allows for 6.
That's correct. Yeah.
So why would we even need anything to override that?
Cause we got people already that have more than 6, but,
Well, that's not,
no, I know,
I
but it
mean-
just, I mean, where is it gonna stop? You know, we're gonna end up with 100-foot chicken barns.
that's what I'm saying. I mean, we've already got an ordinance that says 6. And that's why we made it 6, because we didn't want to get more and more and more and more. And then people are asking for, you know, they want 17, pretty soon it's gonna be 24, and then it's gonna be 30.
Sure.
And I'm just asking, this overrides the original ordinance that we have, correct?
That's correct. What
If
this
we
does
approve
is, this restates that position. So instead of
Okay.
saying that there's a hard and fast 6 limit, I mean, this caps, this is no more than 16.
Yeah, I
It
understand.
raises that level. But what it provides for is if there is someone who comes in and applies to have chickens, the permit that is issued has a number on it, as to how many chickens you can.
Right.
And that way, it's a code enforcement issue, I think.
Okay.
Makes that much easier for Randy
Okay.
to say,
Yeah.
how many chickens you got, what's the permit say? But yeah, I mean, it's, as a matter of practice, with this in place for the council to enact it, it does not mean that the council has to approve any application for more than 7 chickens.
But if we do go to the 16, let's say, hypothetical, is there a size of the coop in the ordinance right now?
Based on each chicken,
Based on.
Yeah.
so it'd still be whatever the
Square
size,
footage.
square footage per chicken would just be times 16. So you're limited, like, it would limit lot size, would limit, dictate who could even
I
have.
was saying, 'cause I know there's one that already has a coop bigger than it's allowed, so.
I'm gonna make an odd motion. I make a motion that we deny ordinance 8/15/2024-26,
22.
22.
Mine says XX.
22. Perfect. Motion by Kathy, is there a second?
Everybody says.
Says XX.
Is there a second?
I'll second Kathy's motion.
All right.
Yeah.
Motion by Kathy, second by Dean. Any further discussion? If not, we'll take a vote. Dean Renfro,
Yes.
Kevin Burke,
Yes,
Greg Dolsky,
No,
it's up to you.
Dougie Smith is a yes. Motion carries.
No.
Done it.
It's
Is
a
that a
yeah,
tie?
it's a tie.
no,
No,
you three all said yes, I said no.
Oh, you
So,
said,
no.
I'm sorry, you said no.
No, he said yes.
It's a denied vote. Okay, I got it.
It almost became Kathy's vote.
You know?
I know it did.
Yeah, and sitting over there like, no, just stare at the keyboard.
Okay, so I did not pass, correct.
Um,
I'm sorry, it gets confusing when you do a denied motion, and that's why I was,
Your motion.
No, it's
We just denied the ordinance.
I know.
great parliamentary procedure.
Telling you what he
Thank
said.
With that, council, that's all I have for you this evening.
Okay. Looks like there's no new business, so at this point, we'll open up the privilege of the floor, also known as public comments. Anyone has any comments, please state your name and address. And head to the podium.
My name is Ryan Elliott. I live at 54868 Leon Court. I want to say thank you, first of all, for listening. I am talking here on behalf of Wilhelm Farm. That did right on the head. So, yeah, I appreciate listening to that because that was a lot of concerns I had personally. There are, I don't want to push any more than what I can, but I still, we're looking at doing the M1. The question I have is, there's a lot of questions that you guys still have. So why are we, the way we're setting it up with the M1 based on the approval of if it's a data center? Sounds a lot like a DPUD with conditions. Why don't we just put it through as a DPUD? I get there are a lot more regulatory processes, but that gives you guys and also the neighbors a chance to hear those changes and have time for us to be able to have those questions answered instead of just trying to ramp M1 down. I get it, and yeah, so I guess my question is to you is why are we still pursuing M1 when we're trying to set it like up as like a DPUD or a GPUD?
The answer that the petitioner will give you, and this is accurate. There are now 3 data centers in this area fighting for that power. So the first one on the queue has a better chance of getting it. So this allows them about a 30, I don't know if it'd be a 60, but it's at least a 30-day advantage. Straight from going to a shorter process than you can.
We're
That's
doing,
what they will tell
so we're doing it for them, not for us.
you.
Well, it's still not guaranteed. It's still
Yeah.
not guaranteed, so like, if we can't get it moving, they can always just decide up and done, and then it's more manufacturing that. Good, better otherwise.
They're looking to spend $1.3 billion.
And a billion something, yeah.
They're not gonna pull the trigger fast on anything. You know, they're looking at a lot of.
Yeah, so, yeah, it's a sequential thing like they explained. First they have acquisition of land and they have zoning. And they show the financial wherewithal to be able to build the thing. And that's the NIPSCO supplies commitment, letter of commitment for the power. So those are the things they're trying to get in line. So they don't want to spend a lot of time on design work and engineering work until they have commitment from NIPSCO. That's the reason they're choosing the straight result. There's another data center that has chosen to go the DQD process, so it was their choice, and this is as close as we can get to the DQD process. Yeah,
I'm not trying to discredit the work you did, because I do
Yeah.
appreciate those steps in there, because that does address it. But it's just like, I know the DPUD process, I know the GPUD process. I don't know this process, you know, I'm guessing if you guys do choose to do that, you're gonna set these up in an ordinance, but then do the neighbors get notified if anything changes, you know, let's say they do wanna put something else on that process, that property that's not data center related, and it goes, yeah, that makes sense, that makes sense to you guys.
can't happen, has to be rezoned.
So that it goes through the rezone, okay.
And I
Yeah,
had something for you.
Unless it's corn and sold.
Fair.
It says in the document that zoning district purpose statement is that the M1, which is limited manufacturing zoning district, is to accommodate less intense manufacturing, warehousing, and distribution uses that are not significantly objectionable to surrounding properties in terms of truck traffic, noise, odor, smoke, and other nuisances. That's what it said, the M1.
Correct.
Yeah, so that does give restrictions too.
But I'm talking, to you. Part of what I'm saying is, I guess why I'm agreeing with you is because I like the idea of a data center. I'm opposed to just straight rezoning it without that restriction, and that's what I'm trying to protect. You know, there are other questions on there with decibels. I want to point out that we don't know what we don't know until there's no data centers here. There's some close, but they're just being built, so
Nobody knows.
they run generators, I've heard, that they have to test because for backup power, once a week. You know, I've heard with same, I think, articles that you've been reading,
Mhm.
you know, there's restrictions on when they can do it. I like that idea. But, you know, who knows what other things are like that we don't have.
That's the reason I want to tighten up our noise ordinance, so that if we get into these types of issues, we have an enforcement ability that letting us change schedules if we need to, or add additional noise abatement. And
But no, I do want to thank you guys for taking that into consideration. It's nice to be heard. And yeah, I personally, out of all the stuff that could go in there, I'd like to see be a data center. I agree with you, less traffic. There's a lot of pros to that, but there's some unknown things. So that's my personal opinion. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to make public comment?
Rachel Stringfellow, 1404 Pike. I actually have 2 ducks that Randy told me that I could come and petition to try to keep.
Okay,
Go for it. Okay, so I have 2 ducks, and obviously, whatever they said that they're farm animals, but we allow chickens, all that good stuff. So my thing is that they're really beneficial for my children. They're 5 and 3. They go out and feed them every day. They change the water every day. It teaches them responsibility. My son has a sensory processing disorder as well as an autoimmune disease. Not only does it teach him the responsibility of washing his hands after he feeds the ducks because it's made out of wheat and things that he can't have, it teaches him how to express his feelings and things that he needs, like the ducks need food, the ducks need water, I need help. So not only are they just fun to have, they're great for my kids who have disabilities that it actually supports and helps them learn and grow as individuals and not, hey, you need to do this, you need to do that. They tell me what they need.
well, Rachel, what prompted the ordinance officer to come in? Was it neighbors complaining?
No, he was actually just over there and heard one quack. So nobody had an issue with it. My neighbors actually come over all the time and play with them.
That's it.
Yeah.
Just to affirm what you said, Randy told me exactly that. He was just in the neighborhood and heard the ducks.
He's on the sidewalk, he said, and heard.
Yeah.
Do they quack a lot?
No, actually, the only time that they quack is when they see that we're coming out to feed them. And then they get really excited. But other than that, no, not at all.
Okay.
Do you have a black duck and white duck?
I do. The black one looks like he's wearing a tuxedo. He has a yellow chest and a little bow tie.
I'd heard that, and I don't recall seeing a black duck before.
Oh, yeah.
Not knowing much about ducks, what happens in the wintertime?
Oh, gosh. So once they're actually so big, they can regulate their own heat. So when they were babies, they had to be underneath a heat lamp. And once they reached 8-ish weeks and they have full feathers, they can keep themselves warm. So really, they're low maintenance. All we do is feed and water them. They're great support animals. They'll chill with you.
It's pretty much like a chicken.
Yeah, basically a chicken that doesn't lay eggs.
You've got male ducks?
I believe one is a male. I believe the other is a female. So they might make
ladies.
yeah. But we're not there yet. They're still little. Well, not little, but.
And you'll have Holstein.
And ducks will lay eggs. Females? Yeah.
Oh,
Mhm.
yeah,
Duck,
Tastes
great.
terrible.
Do they have never tried duck eggs?
Oh, they're great,
Yeah.
especially a double yolk duck egg.
Um,
You like it?
Not bad.
Uh-huh. That was a snap.
They-
I'm not sure what to do with this. I'm not sure what legal abilities you have or what your explanation is. I don't know.
Well,
Open precedent.
so the ordinance, the part of the code we're dealing with, the way that, ducks, I presume would be defined as fowl, right? FOWL.
Yeah.
And.
That is clearly right.
Yeah. No.
It's a legal scientific.
That's right. Yes. This is advanced stuff they taught me in law school here. So
He got a little spelling. didn't he?
So the code currently defines a farm animal as including fowl and a number of other types of animals. And then there's an express prohibition on what the code says are either exotic animals or farm animals within the town. So from a, it's an interesting one, to say the least. The definition of farm animal, I'll say this for the record, in the edification of the council, is any animal typically kept and raised for resale on an agricultural farm, including but not limited to swine, fowl, sheep, goats, horses, and domestically raised wild animals.
I see a loophole.
I do too. Couple.
So do I.
Uh, from an enforcement standpoint, the code prohibits farm animals, and farm animals are kept and raised on an agricultural farm. Is one way to look at it.
So it would be possible. And I don't wanna set a precedent here because this could just expand and get all out of shape. You know,
16 ducks.
no, that's what I was gonna say, what I was gonna say, would say, you know, like. Add to the chicken ordinance. Ducks. But like I said, you start setting a precedent, then somebody's gonna say, yeah, but I've got geese.
Or it's got pigs,
No, pig's different, a fowl, that's not a fowl,
still farm animal.
that's not a fowl, we're dealing with a fowl. So we're talking geese, then it could be partridges, and then it could be, you know, guinea hens, and then it could be, you know. That's what I'm saying, it's hard to. Well, even Alex had a hard time with this.
It is, yeah, this is a, this is, I mean, this is an interesting one. I mean, from from an enforcement standpoint, from an enforcement standpoint, Randy's point that it's appropriate to bring before the council, I think is correct. The code doesn't give us a lot of guidance as far as how to deal with the question of foul. It probably warrants a discussion kind of along the lines you said, Kathy. It may be worthwhile to consider whether or not winged animals instead of just chickens should be included in the chicken ordinance.
Or is it possible? I sense we want to allow the family to keep the two damn pets, the two dogs.
Can you keep them in the bathtub, then they're in your home.
You know, I didn't until they were big enough to be out. They were actually inside and used the bathtub to swim around and all that good stuff. So we did for a while.
Yeah, I know.
Is it possible for the council to grant this person special permission to have her ducks?
Then it's
Then-
a precedent.
Well, it's only a precedent. A precedent is only a problem if it becomes a problem. Like if we have 3 more and we continue to have requests, then we may have to rein this back in. But if it's like once a
Just a
year,
one-off.
I would maybe look at it this way, instead of having the council take an affirmative action.
Postpone, think about it.
I may recommend
the work
that at least the way the code is written now, it would be my recommendation that the code enforcement officer and the town generally not seek to enforce it at this point in time, pending a review. I think there's a due process question. There's and so at least with the issue that has been raised today, that would be my recommendation, that it,
okay, so we can tell Randy that no enforcement on the ducks pending review of the council.
correct. I think that's,
And we can put it on the agenda for the work session. So we can discuss it further.
At some work session.
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
You can blame town attorney for that.
Can you tell this is the first
Pardon me?
month?
I need to be back for the review.
I'll let you know.
Sounds good.
Yes. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good enough. Is there anyone else who would like to make public comment? If not, the privilege of the floor is closed. Town council discussion items. Dean, do you have anything?
No.
Nothing?
No.
Right?
I want to thank Randy. He's changed the way he does his notices. He's only tearing off little edges so it doesn't leave residue all over everything. My neighbor got one for mowing my motor yard. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have to come and clean it all up, and it pulled off easy. I was very thankful for that.
He did that with mine too, so I will agree on that, because when it leaves that whole sticky thing, there's nothing that makes me madder.
Yeah, that's great that he changed the way he did that.
It's good little things.
Yeah, I've got something that I forgot to say, and somebody asked me if I had said anything, but I know, all know I'm on the homecoming committee. We want to thank the fire department, the police department, Jill, and everyone else that helped us with issues we had with roads being torn up, fireworks underwater, everything else, you know, last minute having to move fireworks. We just want to thank everybody for their help and it's over. Oh, so next year, but we all had a forbidding thing about 6 months ago on a committee that something was gonna happen this year. It just, you know, and then we ended up with Indiana Street where we lined up the parade, that was closed, then we had the water where the fireworks would be shut off and that was changed and. But I wanna say to everybody in town how much we appreciate all your. You want it?
Yeah.
All right, next.
I did remember.
Oh,
Uh,
there we go.
The quotes for the cleanup will be coming in. I'll open those up on Tuesday morning and I have the engineers do a quick review. It's a pretty simple quote. And if it's okay with you, I'll get those guys started as soon as possible.
So we're thinking
So
August.
we'll have, what's that?
We're
Yes.
thinking August, because I've been hearing September.
That's in the quote package. I mentioned mid-September is the final date to have it cleaned up.
Okay.
But at least one contractor said he'd get right on it. So they got space now to get right in. So hope he's a low one. Niblock's putting a quote in, so it'll be Niblock and at least 2 others. So we should have three.
A and B one of
It
them,
was only.
What's that?
A and B one of them, the guy did the house for us,
He said no.
did he?
Yeah.
Doesn't have a big enough excavator.
That's what I'm thinking. The kayak launch is in, the new one, at Romance. Well, nice addition.
Good deal. All right, next meetings, August 13th is gonna be council budget work session. And then August 15th is a regular town council meeting. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion.
Well, second.
Motion by Greg, second by Kathy, all in favor?
Aye.
Done good, Alex. Proud of you.
Thank you, sir.
Done good, Steve.
Is that a foul